This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting Hudson River Black River Regulating District Board to order. Today's governance, finance, and regular meeting of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District are occurring virtually, as well as here at the Sacandaga Field office and our Hudson River area office in Albany, with most board members joining remotely and members of the public able to do so as well. Board meeting agenda is available at hrbrrd.ny.gov under board meetings. We ask that you please close other programs on your computer or phone, silence your cell phone, and mute your audio when not speaking. A conference organizer will monitor the program's chat function for public comment. Comments may also be emailed to hrao@hrbrrd.ny.gov. We'll begin with the governance committee meeting, which I will chair ex officio in place of governance committee chair Jeff Rosenthal, who is excused. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which is one nation, God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Mr. Candido has joined us, Chairman.
Okay. I want to take 1 second. As many of you know, or hopefully you know, we have a new board member joining us today, Al Candido. Al, welcome aboard. I can't wait to meet you in person. Welcome to the conference and the meeting, and look forward to many meetings with you. Also, for the record, another board member has been appointed, Tim Reagan. Both members represent the Black River area, so we are now at full complement of board members.
Mr. Chairman, maybe Mr. Candido wants to say hello together. I'll defer to council, but this might be the appropriate time also to swear in the new board member.
I would like to say good morning, and it's a pleasure to join this group. And needless to say, COVID had its delays across the board, and so it's been about a year and a half, and so it's long welcomed. It is, and a lot to do here in the Black River, Forestport, North Country area. So I'm very interested in the work of the group, and I'm honored and pleased that the governor has saw fit to make the appointment. And thank you for your welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Great. And Mr. Leslie, can we swear him in?
I certainly can. As Secretary of the Board, I would welcome you, and I would ask you to repeat after me. I, Alfred J. Candido Jr.
I, Alfred J. Candido Jr.
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of board member of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District
of the Hudson, as a board member of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Chairman, if I might call the roll.
Thank you.
Board Chairman Mark
I
Finkel.
apologize for that. I'm having cataract surgery in a couple of days, and she was just giving me the time. And take that. I apologize. Okay. We are going into governance committee roll call.
For the governance committee meeting, board chairman Mark Finkel,
I'm here.
committee member Albert Hayes,
Here.
Board Member Alfred Candido,
Here.
Executive Director John Callahan,
Here.
Area Administrator John Hudson,
Here.
Compliance Officer Stephanie Rozicki, committee members Kenneth DeWitt
Here.
and Richard Byrd,
I'm here.
General Counsel Robert Leslie, I'm here, Chief Engineer Robert Fultan,
Here.
Chief Fiscal Officer Timothy Manicha.
Here.
And as Chairman Finkel noted, Committee Chair Jeffrey Rosenthal is excused.
Well, I want to call the Governance Committee to order. I need a motion to adopt the meeting agenda.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
DeWitt and Byrd.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We need to approve the April 14th, 2020 committee meeting minutes, which is in your packet. Any questions?
Nope.
Motion to approve?
Make that motion.
Okay.
Second? All in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Byrd, Mr. DeWitt.
Okay, committee business, new business. Discussion of the annual review and approval of the investment policy. Mr. Manisha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have a revised version of the district's proposed investment policy for your review. It is largely unchanged from the version you approved last year, in large measure because our investment practices have not changed over the course of the last year. What isn't changed from last year is our receipt of an investment audit conducted by our independent auditors, Claros Robinson, in accordance with Section 2925 of the Public Authorities Law. The auditors have given us an unmodified opinion, meaning our investment practices comply with our investment policies, applicable laws and regulations related to investments, and the New York State Office of the State Comptroller Investment Guidelines for public authorities. I'm happy to answer any questions you have and hope you will approve the district's investment policy.
Any further discussion? Then from the committee, I need a motion to advance to the whole board recommended approval of our investment policy.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hayes.
Any further
and Mr.
discussion?
DeWitt.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next, discussion of the annual review and approval of procurement policy. Again, Mr. Manisha.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair. You have a revised version of the district's proposed procurement policy for your review. It is largely unchanged from the version you approved last year. In addition to the edits that Mr. Rosenthal brought to our attention, thanks to his careful reading last year, we've also sought to clarify an element of the petty cash section. In the procurement policy, Roman numeral 25, number 2, you will see a new final sentence explaining the circumstances under which the district is able to write a petty cash check to a single vendor in an amount greater than $250, as long as it represents separate and distinct charges that are each less than $250. We seek to make this clarification at the recommendation of our auditors, who raised this with us when they completed the district's independent audit of its fiscal year 2019-20 financial statements. I'm happy to answer any questions you have and hope you will approve the district's procurement policy.
Any questions or discussions? In that case, the motion to advance to the full board and recommend approval of the procurement policy.
I'll make
Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to that effect? Second,
Mr. Byrd, Mr. Hayes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, discussion of the annual review and approval of property guidelines policy. Again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have a revised version of the district's proposed disposition policy for your review. Like the others, it is largely unchanged from the version you approved last year. There are two amendments that I would like to bring to your attention, however. In section 2C, we are proposing to reduce the number of options available to the district for disposing of surplus property. We have worked during the past year with the Office of General Services to dispose of surplus property and believe that continuing to work with them gives the district the greatest opportunity to obtain fair value for the property it no longer needs. This language accomplishes that. The second change found in the final sentence of the policy designates the chief fiscal officer as the contracting officer for the district. In prior versions of this policy, it had been the executive director. I'm happy to answer any questions you have and hope you will approve the district's disposition policy.
Any further questions or comments? In that case, I need a motion to advance to the full board and recommend approval of property guidelines. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
And a second. We have a second, Mr. DeWitt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And finally, annual review of authority mission statement and performance measures. Mr. Leslie.
On pages 38 and 40 of your board packet, you'll find the authority's mission statement and performance measurements annual review. First, I would ask the executive director, Mr. Callahan, to read the public authority's mission statement.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The authority's mission statement is as follows. The mission of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District is to construct, maintain, and operate reservoirs in the upper Hudson River and Black River watershed, including the Sacandaga, Indian, Black, Moose, and Beaver rivers, for the purpose of regulating the flow of streams or rivers when required by public welfare, including public health and safety. Regulating reservoirs operated by the regulating district include Great Sacandaga Lake, Indian Lake, Stillwater Reservoir, Sixth Lake, and Old Forge. Benefits derived through the successful completion of the mission include, but may not be limited to, flood protection to the public corporations, parenthetical counties, and parcels of real estate, parenthetical power plants, downstream of said impoundments. Low flow augmentation to provide sufficient water flow enabling downstream wastewater treatment plants to avoid increased treatment costs associated with waste discharge to lower volume rivers and enabling downstream hydroelectric plants to generate low-cost hydroelectric power in the hot summer months when rates are generally highest.
Chairman Finkel, are there any changes to that mission statement you'd like to make this year?
No, not for me.
Okay, we're moving on to performance goals. We're to review these each year. Our goals are to provide flood protection and low flow augmentation through reservoir releases at Great Sacandaga Lake, Indian Lake, Stillwater Reservoir, Old Forge Reservoir, and Sixth Lake Reservoir. We have indicated we have accomplished that goal. To adhere to the Upper Hudson Sacandaga River offer of settlement, we've indicated we've accomplished that goal. To adhere to operating plans for each reservoir, also accomplished. Provide public safety, accomplished. Provide public information pertinent to our mission. We believe we've accomplished that as well. Maintain safe facilities. We've accomplished that. Address land management issues, also accomplished. And maintain sound fiscal status, also accomplished. In accomplishing those goals, we've measured those against the following metrics. The Upper Hudson Sacandaga River offer of settlement, reservoir target elevation rule curves, river flow thresholds, limits included in the offer of settlement and in our operating plans, the occurrence and extent of flooding, public feedback, safety inspections completed by professional engineering staff, FERC, and DEC, meaning the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and the Department of Environmental Conservation, compliance with DEC, APA, and other authorities, APA meaning the Adirondack Park Authority. And we've had independent audits and public authority reporting compliance throughout. Have the board members acknowledged that they've read and understood the mission of the public authority? We hope yes. Who has the power to appoint the management of the public authority? That would be the regulating district board. If the board appoints management, do they have a policy to follow when appointing the management of the public authority? Yes, they do. That is the adopted written management hiring policy, which was adopted on June 8th, 2010 by resolution 103206. Finally, we are to describe the role of the board and the role of management in the implementation of our missions. The board is the primary policymaker for the Hudson River Black River Regulating District, and it directs senior management in the exercise of all power and authority granted to it pursuant to Environmental Conservation Law, Article 15, Title 21. The board reviews, monitors the reservoir operating performance against clearly defined performance objectives, ensures performance goals are attained, makes sure the regulating district possesses the financial and other resources necessary to realize its visions and carry out its missions fully, ensures all members are fully engaged in the governance process and that the resources they bring to the board are fully utilized in governing, provides appellate review of management's land management determinations, and the board takes accountability for its own performance as a governing body. Management determines the quality or the quantity, not the quality, the quantity of flows released, monitors river flows, evaluates key measurements, including elevation, flow, storage, precipitation, and snow, conducts inspections, develops and implements a capital project plan, supervises those land management activities, and communicates with our external and internal customers. We will have an acknowledgement for each of the board members to sign at a later date. And that wraps that up.
Counselor, do you need a motion to reaffirm these performance measures?
I think that would be appropriate, yes.
First of all, are there any questions, comments, changes, anything? If not, a motion to accept the statement.
I make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hayes and Mr. DeWitt?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So, taken care of. Any other business to come before the governance committee? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the governance committee.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Hayes, Mr. Byrd, at 10:22.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Next meeting is the Finance Committee meeting. Chairman DeWitt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. A roll call, Mr. Leslie.
Board Chairman Mark Finkel,
Oh, here, I'm having trouble hearing.
Committee Member Albert Hayes,
Here.
Executive Director John Callahan,
Here.
Area Administrator John Hudson,
Here.
Compliance Officer Stephanie Rizicki, I see her. Committee Chair Kenneth DeWitt,
Here.
Committee Member Richard Byrd,
I'm here.
Board Member Alfred Candino,
Here,
General Counsel Robert Leslie, Chief Engineer Robert Fulton.
Here.
Chief Fiscal Officer Timothy Minicha,
Here.
and Committee Member Jeffrey Rosenthal will be marked as excused.
Can I entertain a motion to adopt a revised meeting agenda?
I'll make that motion.
A second?
now second.
Mr. Hayes,
Any-
Mr. Candino is not a member of this committee yet.
Oh, I thought you called me on roll call, so I thought I was a member.
I'll second.
I'll back off. I'll mute.
Mr. Byrd,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Can I have a motion to approve the July 7th, 2020 Finance Committee meeting minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Hayes,
Second? A second?
I'll second.
Whit,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Under new business, a resolution approving budget and financial plan required pursuant to section 2801 of Public Authorities Law. Mr. Minucha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have before you a draft multi-year financial plan that meets the requirements of section 2801 of the Public Authorities Law, requiring state and local authorities to annually submit financial information and projections to the authority's budget office. Format is prescribed by the authority's budget office and represents our best estimate at this point in time of what our financial condition is and what it will be for the next 4 years. So let me just walk you very briefly through the structure of the report here. Across the top, you see different columns for the different years. The 2021 represents actual audited information. The current year estimated represents our best estimate of where we will end up now that we are 8 months through our current fiscal year with 4 months remaining. The other 4 years represent estimates based on our prior revenue and expenditure history and our best projections on the amount of money that we will take in and spend over the course of that period. You can see that we currently project a budget that is balanced over the upcoming triennium, meaning the years 22, 3, and 4. The large surplus projected in 2022 and large deficit projected in 2023 arises because of the timing of the debt that we anticipate issuing to finance rehabilitation projects during that period. You can see that debt issuance on the first page under proceeds from the issuance of debt, $7,843,300. We will obviously go back to the Finance Committee on at least one, if not more than one occasion as we get closer to the issuance of that debt later in this year. We will continue to work in the coming weeks on the upcoming triennial budget that the board will consider and hopefully approve at its June meeting. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this or any other aspect of the district's financial condition.
Any discussion? Then I'd like to have a resolution approving budget and finance planning required pursuant to section 2801 of Public Authorities Law to the regular board meeting. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Can I have a motion to adjourn the Financial Committee meeting?
So moved.
Second?
I'll
All in
second.
favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved.
28.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move to the regular board meeting agenda. I will call the meeting to order. Roll call, Mr. Leslie?
Board Chairman Mark Finkel,
Here.
Board Member Albert Hayes,
Here.
Executive Director John Callahan,
Here.
Area Administrator John Hodgkin,
Here.
sorry, Compliance Officer Stephanie Rozicki,
Here.
Second Vice Chair Kenneth DeWitt,
Here?
Board Member Richard Byrd,
Here.
Board Member Alfred Candido,
Here.
General Counsel Robert Leslie. Oh, that's me. Chief Engineer Robert Voltan.
Here.
Chief Fiscal Officer Timothy Minicha. Excused is First Vice Chair Jeffrey Rosenthal. And Mr. Candido, you are free to act at this point. Your board member is ready to go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leslie. I need a motion to adopt the meeting agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Good. Hey, we got your name in
Good,
the
Al.
minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have no guests. I see nobody here for public comment. So we will move to the approval of the January 12th regular board meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion.
Any revisions or corrections?
Second?
If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Next, we move to the report of the executive director. Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report can be found on page 58 of your packet. I just want to note, before I open up to any questions, just a couple of notable highlights that I'd like to emphasize. First is that we continue to go through renewal season as far as Great Sacandaga access permits, and the new online system has been popular. We are just under 2,100 online renewals. Probably hit that number today, just about 15 short of that. And that's out of about 4,400 renewals so far. So this mark of nearly 50% total renewal volume using the new online system far exceeds what our hopes and expectations were going into the process. And out of that 2,100, Danielle Thorne, Dan Kiskis, Stephanie Porter have only had to speak to about 1,800 of those people into the process. That's a joke. Actually, the vast majority of the people that have utilized the new online system have gotten through without any issues. But I do want to pause just to commend the whole team, but in particular, Stephanie, Dan, and Danielle, who have really, on a one-on-one basis, worked with a lot of people who did have, for one reason or another, some of them were kinks that we were still working out in the system early on, and some were just user error issues. But nonetheless, we had to provide a high level of customer support. So a real team effort and a real success that we'll obviously continue to build on. I just want to note also that a happy benefit really of this new online system is we've had 275 people now sign up in conjunction with setting up their online account for our electronic newsletter. So that means that we're better able to communicate directly with that user base, which is very, very useful. And given that there's such a high percentage Great Sacandaga Lake permittees in that universe already. The fact that we had nearly another 300 people sign up really helps us communicate directly with our customers. And just continuing on that theme in terms of outreach, since last January, we've expanded our constant contact, including the new people that have signed up. So that's our online newsletter by nearly 4,000 people. By 17% to nearly 4,000 people. We've increased our Instagram followers 37% and 54% increase in our Facebook followers. So great job by Gina Bowman, primarily, who has helped coordinate those efforts on social media. And again, in terms of communicating with the public, social media today is just a critically important tool, and I think we're making the most of it. The only other issue that I'll really note for today's meeting before inviting any questions is the really good news that we've received in terms of the governor proposing $20 million for work at Coppinville Dam in the executive budget. Obviously, that budget has not been adopted. Theoretically, will be by the end of the month. But this really is a testament to the efforts of Mr. Medicia and certainly our chief engineer, Mr. Fultan, in helping correctly and effectively articulate the need for these funds and the need to do the work as part of our overall capital improvement program. So very, very good news. Our efforts on these issues on the capital program will continue, and hopefully we'll have more good news in the future, but certainly a very, very good news and welcome news for us over these last couple of months. And with that, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'll invite any questions on it.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Callahan? If not, thank you. Nice report. We'll move on to contracts. First one is a resolution to accept Henningson's, Dunham, and Richardson's Architecture and Engineering PC Amendment Number 2, proposal to complete work necessary to respond to FERC's additional request. Mr. Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My memorandum is on page 60 of the board package. The board remember in February of 2019, the board authorized hiring of Adam Jones of HDR as the independent consultant to complete the fourth Part 12 safety inspection of Conklinville Dam. Mr. Jones completed his inspection by the end of 2019 and submitted to the district his safety inspection report, which the district then forwarded to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. The report included certain dam safety related recommendations, and those recommendations were responded to by FERC in a letter in May 2020, requesting the completion of certain dam safety related recommendations made by that fourth Part 12 independent consultant. In January 2021, in response to the district request, HDR provided a scope of services and fee proposal to complete the necessary work to address the dam safety related recommendations. The scope and fee proposals attached to my memorandum. It outlines the engineering studies and analyses proposed, including stability analysis of the embankment retaining wall and a risk analysis of the embankment dam. HDR proposes to complete the work for a not to exceed fee of $79,790. Regulating district staff recommends acceptance of HDR's proposal to complete the work in response to the recommendations made in the fourth Part 12 safety inspection, seeks board authorization to amend the scope and fee of contract C03-2018 and authorize the executive director to execute an amendment which increases the price of the contract by $79,790 to a not to exceed amount of $148,840. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any concerning this change
Any
in amendment.
questions or comments? Then I need a motion to accept the amendment. Anybody?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
And Ken seconded it. Any
Mr.
further
Hayes,
discussion?
Mr. DeWitt.
Any further discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, resolution to authorize a 5-year lease and 1-year maintenance and supply agreement on a Ricoh 1M 2500 copier system for use at the Sacandaga field office. Mr. Zicki.
I'll make a motion.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay.
On page 76 of the board packet is a resolution authorizing the lease for Ricoh multifunction copier to replace the current Xerox copier at Sacandaga field office. The current lease with Xerox expired in 2018. The existing machine is old and has numerous issues. The automatic feed function works intermittently, documents are frequently jammed, and one side door is taped shut, a solution that sometimes works. Staff frequently have to hold on the lease while trying to print a document. Furthermore, parts and service are not readily available. The new machine will be leased through repeat business, a New York State certified MWBE, and an authorized OGS reseller. The Ricoh multifunction machine includes a 4th tray for printing envelopes, a valuable and time-saving addition to the office. Additionally, it has the ability to fax, eliminating the need for a separate fax machine. Repeat business will monitor the machine electronically and send parts and replacement to us automatically. Staff recommend the board authorize the new copier lease through repeat business systems. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions? Seems pretty straightforward.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just note that the phrase held together with duct tape is one that is often used figuratively with an old piece of equipment. But in this case, it is literal.
We have a motion to authorize the lease.
I will definitely make that motion.
And a
I'll
second,
second it. I'll second.
Mr. Hayes, Mr. DeWitt.
any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And last contract, resolution to authorize a 5-year, 3-month lease and a connectivity installation agreement on a Quadrant IX-5 postage meter for use at the Sacandaga field office. Again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 78 of the board packet is a resolution authorizing a postage meter rental lease to replace the current Pitney Bowes machine with a Quadrant machine. The current lease with Pitney Bowes expired in 2020. The existing machine is old and is experiencing some issues, including frequent error code messages. The new machine is an upgrade with better functionality. It has an automatic feeder that will stack and zip through 40 to 50 envelopes at one time. The current machine is a manual one-at-a-time feed. It can also be programmed for one-touch mailing on items that we mail on a regular basis. Most importantly, the repeat business technician will provide training and provide in-person service. The new postage machine will be leased through Ed Technology, a division of Repeat Business Systems, which is both a New York State certified MWBE and an authorized OGS reseller. Staff recommend that board approve this lease. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Again, are there any questions or comments? If not, a motion to lease the postage meter.
I
I will
will.
definitely make that motion again.
Mr. Byrd,
And we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Mr. DeWitt.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to committee reports. First one is the governance committee report. The governance committee met and asked the board to approve the following resolutions. Number 1, a resolution to satisfy the annual review and approval of the investment policy. I need a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. DeWitt.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Mr. Byrd?
Aye.
Any opposed? Secondly, the governance committee recommends a resolution to satisfy the annual review and approval of procurement policy. We have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Hayes?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Who was the
Any
second on
opposed?
that?
I'll make that second.
Okay.
Ken,
Mr. Hayes, Mr. DeWitt?
do it. Thirdly, the governance committee recommends passage of a resolution to satisfy the annual review and approval of property guidelines policy. Again, I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Mr. DeWitt?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Finally, from the governance committee, approval of the annual review of the authority, mission statement, and performance measures. Motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion, yeah.
A second to that motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Hayes, Mr. Candido?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Move on to the finance committee report, Mr. DeWitt.
Since we've, everyone here has heard Mr. Minutia in the finance committee meeting, I'd like to have a resolution approving the budget and financial plan required pursuant to section 2801 of Public Authorities Law.
We have that motion?
Yeah, I will.
We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. General Counsel, Mr. Leslie.
Well, because I've spoken a lot, I'll keep this brief. Basically, the Office of the State Comptroller has approved the Walden contract with respect to the valuation of the 56 feet of head at Conconville. Other than that, my month has been putting together the various resolutions you guys saw today.
Okay, any further questions for Mr. Leslie? If not, we will move on to Compliance Officer, Mr. Zicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report can be found on page 81. As a reminder, pages 82 through 84 are the contract reports. They are there for your review and satisfy the public authority requirement. Worth noting is our MWBE and SCBOD annual goal plan documents have been submitted. I continue to monitor our COVID reopening plan and make note of any contact of a confirmed case and work with our executive director to make sure that is contained. I performed the SFO and Black River Area Office Internal Control Compliance audits. In both areas, appropriate measures are in place. This is my report unless you have any questions.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chief Fiscal Officer, Mr. Minutia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The CFO report begins on page 85 of your packet. Through 8 months of the fiscal year, the district is running a deficit of $155,900. This amount is $345,200 smaller than the amount for the July 2019, February 2020 period. The district shifted from surplus at the end of December to a deficit at the end of February, in large part because we paid municipal real property tax bills in January. Nearly $1.2 million we paid this January will represent approximately 40% of the entire real property tax bill of the district, amounting to $3.1 million. The $3.1 million is roughly half of the district's operating expenses. The real property tax bill for the current fiscal year is projected to increase by nearly 4% when compared to last fiscal year, twice the rate of increase of the so-called 2% real property tax levy cap that local governments face. In my report, I also mentioned the $20 million capital project appropriation in the state fiscal year 2021-2022 New York State executive budget. I won't say any more about that as John has already discussed this most welcome development. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have on this or any other aspect of the district's finances.
Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you very much. Move on to Chief Engineer, Mr. Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report begins on page 108. For the month of February through the 21st, we had about 65% of historic average rainfall precipitation, I should say, in the Hudson River watershed, and about 38 and 41% of historic average inflow, respectively, for Great Sacandaga Lake and Indian Lake. And in the Black River area, about 60% of historic average precip for the month, and an inflow of about 30% of historic average at Stillwater Reservoir. My report includes, as does every month, the guide curves and elevation graphs for each of the reservoirs, and you can see as of the end of February, and I can say we still are on track, following our target elevation curves for each of the reservoirs, and suitably well positioned to receive what is about 100% of average, pretty much a typical snowpack throughout all the watersheds. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has them.
I'm sorry, does that complete the report?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions or comments for Fulton? Thank you.
Thanks.
Area Administrator, Mr. Hodgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report starts on page 138, and I'd like to welcome to the team Mr. Candido. Welcome aboard. Most of my time has been spent helping the staff with the 2021 access permit renewals. As John has stated, it's been sort of a challenge this year with the new online process. I'd like to also recognize Stephanie Porter, Danielle Thorne, Dan Kiskis, and we had some assistance from Matt Ginter also this year from Conklinville Dam, seeing he's on light duty for an operation, and it worked out good to have him help out with the team here. So we've got over that hurdle. Been working on the next 3-year budget with staff and senior staff. And as Mr. Fulton gave you his report, our staff is out every 2 weeks doing snow surveys in both areas to provide that information to Rob for the anticipated runoff coming. So that completes my report. I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions? If not, are there any board member questions or additional comments? Anything?
Mr. Chairman, would you might be recognized just for a couple of comments?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to note, in sort of closing out the meeting today, we are rapidly closing in next week on the 1-year anniversary of asking the whole team here to do things very differently, to do a lot of additional things on top of some of the new issues that Mr. Hodgson has just enumerated. And I just want to take a moment to pause to thank the entire staff, the entire team for the way they've responded. I can say without fear of contradiction, we haven't missed a beat as far as complying and executing in a commendable way on our vitally important mission of of providing health and safety benefits to the general public downstream of our facilities. And just very proud of the whole team here. In addition, over the last year, many members of the team, over half, have been called upon and answered that call to volunteer for various additional initiatives that the state has put out in terms of trying to help people in different facets of dealing with the pandemic. Most recent of which is our general counsel, Mr. Leslie, who's been volunteering, as you can attest, Chairman.
Yes.
At the SUNY Albany vaccination site. And so on top of doing what we do every day to keep people safe, on top of the challenges that presented in terms of doing that and more, we've also had a very high, probably one of the highest across state government in terms of the number of people in comparison to our workforce size. So really, really great to see people committed to and delivering on this important mission. Great public servants here at the regulating district, and I'm sure the board will join me in thanking the entire team here for the way they've responded over the last year.
Absolutely, absolutely. I second all those. The board is appreciative of what the staff has done for sure. Is there any other comments? Last, I need a resolution for the next board meeting, which is April 13th here at SFO. I need a motion for that. So
I
move.
will.
Any second? Did we got the second?
Dick and Albert.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Need a motion for adjournment? So move. Second?
I will.
Mr. Hayes, Mr.
All
DeWitt.
in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
You all.